Okay, welcome to the deep dive. Today we are jumping straight into, well, the sheer adrenaline and, frankly, the attrition of the F1 United States Grand Prix sprint race in Austin. Our mission, we're taking those pretty wild 19 laps from October 18th, 2025, pulling out the key moments, the drama that just completely shook up the championship picture, giving you the absolute shortcut to knowing what went down.
Yeah, and it's funny. You might look at the final results, see Max Verstappen winning, and think, okay, standard stuff.
Yeah.
But this was anything but simple. Not at all. This sprint was really defined by chaos at both ends. You had that huge pileup right at the start, and then it finished under another safety car. And crucially, the way this short race played out, it's radically tightened the whole championship fight for 2025. It's thrown Verstappen right back into the mix.
Okay, let's unpack that right from the lights out. Verstappen, yeah, he got away cleanly, good start, but almost instantly, all eyes shifted behind him. That midfield just turned into, well, absolute confusion going into turn one.
And what's really interesting is how quickly we understood what happened. It wasn't just random contact. It directly involved the big championship contenders. The source material is pretty clear on this. It says Oscar Piastri, he was starting a bit further back and he just closed in maybe a bit too aggressively on the inside line, made contact, significant contact with Nico Hülkenberg, and critically, his own teammate, Lando Norris.
Oh, that contact was just devastating. Norris, one of the main title fighters, instantly out, gone. And then in all the mess that followed, Fernando Alonso, he got caught up too. Had to retire after hitting a Sauber trying to pick his way through the debris. Piastri himself tried to carry on for a couple laps, but yeah, the damage was done. He eventually retired too.
And this is what you meant by the championship earthquake. Right there, within, what, seconds? Both McLarens are out of a race where points were definitely on offer. So for Max Verstappen, this was like a golden opportunity handed right to him. By winning the sprint, getting those maximum 8 points, he just slashed the gap to the championship lead. Massively. The sources are actually saying he's squarely back in the fight now for what could be his 5th title. Just think about that swing. 8 points in just 19 laps, basically gifted to you because your main rivals took each other out. Huge.
And that huge incident obviously brought out the first safety car straight away. It stayed out until lap 5, I think. While they were clearing up, though, there was one driver who really benefited from all that madness. Charles Leclerc.
Oh, Leclerc was brilliant in that chaos. Absolutely threaded the needle. He started P10, right? But somehow managed to weave through all that carnage completely untouched. And he capitalized immediately. Gained a massive chunk of places under that safety car period. Jumped all the way up to P4. That's just pure racecraft, isn't it? Awareness under pressure.
But the drama wasn't just the bent carbon fiber on track. It was emotional, too, back in the pits. The source material really highlights Lando Norris's reaction when he got back to the garage. Describes his very serious demeanor. And you can imagine, right, the title pressure is immense. When your own teammate is the one who takes you out, that signals big trouble internally. How significant is it that the stewards just called it a racing incident, especially for those team dynamics?
Well, look, the ruling kind of lets the team off the hook externally. No penalties.
Yeah.
But internally, in the garage, it does absolutely nothing for the tension. Zero. For the stewards, maybe it was just unavoidable contact in a tight first corner squeeze. Happens. But
Yeah.
for McLaren, it means that championship momentum they've been carefully building. It's just been thrown away, sacrificed because of an internal error, avoidable or not. And Norris's face, like the source noted, it really tells the story, speaks volumes. When your championship hopes literally depend on both drivers maximizing every single point. That one moment of, let's say, over-aggression from Piastri, it might have just poisoned the well for weeks, maybe longer. That internal rivalry, it's now something McLaren has to manage actively. Otherwise, yeah, this kind of chaos could definitely happen again.
That's a massive weight for the team to carry now, psychologically. Okay, so while all that was unfolding in the McLaren garage and the mechanics were packing up those wrecked cars, the race actually restarted up front. And the focus snapped right back to the lead battle. Because George Russell in the Mercedes, he immediately decided, right, I'm having a go at Verstappen.
Russell was driving with, real palpable aggression. You could feel it. Around lap 8, wasn't it? He made his move, went steaming down the end of that long back straight, and just launched this incredibly aggressive overtake attempt on Verstappen. It was so full on, it actually forced both cars off the track for a moment. It was pure all-or-nothing driving.
And Russell wasn't exactly sorry about it afterwards, which I found quite telling. He basically admitted, yeah, I went all out, said he kind of knew the move wasn't going to end well, like he wasn't going to make it stick cleanly, but he was glad he tried it anyway. What does that mindset tell you about where Russell's head is at right now?
It tells me He felt he had absolutely nothing to lose and potentially a lot to gain. He might not have been on the best tire for that stage. We don't have the specifics, but regardless, the move itself was extreme. He saw a chance, maybe the chance, to unsettle the champion, and he just went for it, didn't hesitate, even if it risked a penalty or worse. And the fact that he actually walked away with P2, no major incident, well, his aggression paid off, didn't it? Boosts his confidence, sends a message to Max, I won't just roll over. And for Mercedes, that aggression probably secured them a podium they might not have otherwise gotten. So a net positive for them.
Yeah, and you have to give credit to Verstappen, too. I mean, despite that pretty brazen attack forcing him wide, the stewards looked at it, quickly called it a racing incident, told them to swap positions back momentarily if needed. But Verstappen kept control, and after settling back down post-safety car, which admittedly he said took him a couple of laps to find the rhythm again, he just, poof, pulled away. Got out of Russell's DRS range pretty quickly, had over a second-and-a-half lead by lap 10. That's just...
Yeah,
that's the mark of a champion, recovering like that.
exactly. But while the lead kind of settled into place there for a bit, you could argue the biggest story of the day was actually happening just behind them. And it culminated in a really, really massive achievement for Carlos Sainz.
Oh, absolutely. The Williams driver, his first ever sprint podium, a spectacular drive to P3. And here's where it gets even more impressive, the context around that drive. Sainz's preparation for this race was, well, almost non-existent. He had gearbox problems on Friday, ended up with only about 20 minutes of running time. The source literally said he was driving completely blind.
And that phrase, completely blind, that's a really key piece of insight for you listening. It means he was missing almost all the critical data you rely on. No proper long-run pace info, no real idea how the tires would degrade over the distance, very little track time to even nail down his braking points, his turn-ins, with race fuel loads. He was essentially driving on instinct, maybe some simulator work, but not real-world track data for those 19 flat-out laps.
So how does a driver even manage that level of uncertainty, especially when you've got Lewis Hamilton breathing down your neck?
It takes just extreme mental focus and exceptional tire management skills you usually hone in those long Friday runs that he completely missed. He couldn't afford any mistakes, couldn't lock up, couldn't slide the car, couldn't abuse the tires because he simply didn't know their limits in these conditions over that distance. Sainz basically had to relearn the car's behavior lap by lap during the race. The fact he pulled it off, it just proves his immense raw talent. Driving right on the edge, finding that tiny safe margin, but still being fast enough to keep people behind. Incredible, really.
And the pressure was relentless, wasn't it? He had the Ferraris, Lewis Hamilton, Charles Leclerc right there for large parts of the race. Hamilton, especially towards the end, was just hunting him down, closing right in, getting close to that DRS window. But Sainz just held him off. Masterclass in defense.
And we should also mention the scrap happening right behind Sainz, between the two Ferrari drivers themselves. Hamilton actually managed to get P4 back from Leclerc on lap 9. A really well-executed move after losing the spot earlier on. It just shows how intense things were throughout the field, really. Even with the McLarens out, every single position, every point was being fought for tooth and nail.
Okay, so just when we thought maybe things had settled down, Verstappen leading, Russell second, Sainz holding on to that amazing podium. Austin wasn't quite done with the drama yet.
Nope. Enters safety car number 2, lap 16. This time it was Lance Stroll. Made a major error, locked up really heavily going into turn 1, and just slammed into Esteban Ocon. The source notes the impact was pretty significant, took both cars out immediately. Stroll apparently apologized straight away. This wasn't really a racing incident like the first lap chaos. This looked like a clear late-breaking mistake.
Yeah, and with that much debris scattered around again, the race officials really had no choice. The race finished under the safety car, which basically sealed the result right there. Verstappen the winner.
But we can't forget the administrative side either.
Yeah.
Because there was a penalty that actually shifted the final points. Oliver Bierman in the Haas. He got hit with a 10-second penalty late on. Reason was for leaving the track and gaining an advantage over Kimi Antonelli. Now, that might seem minor, 10 seconds, but it was crucial because it dropped Bierman out of P8. And that single point he'd earned, it got handed over to Antonelli instead.
And a point swing like that can be absolutely huge, can it? Especially later in the season. Speaking of the season, what were the drivers saying afterwards? Particularly the winner, Verstappen. What was his takeaway?
Well, Verstappen, even though he won, showed that typical champion's mindset, didn't he? Never fully satisfied. He basically said, yeah, great result, but they need to find something better in race pace for the main Grand Prix on Sunday. especially if they want to properly fight the McLarens, assuming, the McLarens actually make it through the full race distance this time. He knows his rivals dropping the ball like that won't happen every race.
And Russell, what was his mood?
Oh, Russell was clearly pleased, all smiles. He said P2 was undoubtedly better than he could have expected. And you can understand why, right? Given his aggressive driving and just the general chaos of the race, it was definitely a net gain day for him and Mercedes.
Yeah. Okay, let's just quickly run through the final point scores so you have the concrete takeaways. Verstappen gets the maximum 8 points for the win. Russell takes 7. Sainz gets a brilliant 6 points for that P3 drive. Then Hamilton with 5, Leclerc 4, Albon a solid 3 for Williams, Tsunoda 2, and Antonelli picking up that final point, 1 point, thanks to Berman's penalty.
And every single one of those points matters, of course.
Yeah.
But yeah, Verstappen's 8 points clawed back while his main rivals imploded. That's the real headline grabber from this sprint. Perfect capitalization.
So when we step back and look at the bigger picture here, what does it all mean? This U.S. sprint race, these 19 laps, it felt like a high-stakes game of, well, survival as much as racing. And it did 2 key things. It dramatically tightened up that World Championship fight, and it delivered way more drama and consequence than you sometimes expect from the shorter sprint format.
Absolutely. And if we're connecting the dots for the rest of the season, the key things to remember from this are pretty clear. 1, Verstappen capitalized perfectly when his rivals stumbled, showed that killer instinct. 2, George Russell showed he's willing to be extremely aggressive, maybe push the limits to fight at the front. And 3, Carlos Sainz proved just how valuable pure grit and talent under pressure can be, pulling off that podium while effectively driving blind. Huge performance.
Which brings us to a final, quite potent thought, building on what the source mentioned about Lando Norris's reaction. We saw that immediate, very serious tension flare up within McLaren after that Norris-Piastri collision. So the big question now, moving into these next crucial races, is how on earth will McLaren manage that internal friction, that rivalry, especially when their championship hopes rely entirely on both drivers working together, maximizing points to fight off this resurgent Red Bull? Will this chaotic, almost catastrophic start in Austin end up defining the whole atmosphere and maybe even the outcome of their title challenge? That's definitely something for you to keep mulling over as this championship battle unfolds.